You are listening to stories on Midnight Story Bureau YouTube channel. The following is the Reverend Insanity series. Chapter 11. It's Just Seduction. Fang Yuan's eyebrows furrowed. Based on his intuition and 500 years of life experience, he sensed a conspiracy. A cold glint flashed in his eyes before disappearing, and his eyebrows relaxed. I'm hungry too. You've come at the right time. Bring it in for me. Shen Kui, standing outside the door with a food container, heard this and a faint, disdainful smile appeared on her lips. But when she pushed open the door, her face softened into a meek expression. Young Master Fang Yuan, the wine and food are so fragrant. I can smell it even through the container. Her voice was sweet and seductive, full of alluring charm. Placing the food container on the small table, Shen Kui took out plates and dishes and set the table. The meal was indeed a feast of delicious food, both visually and aromatic. She then took out 2 glasses of wine, poured some, and offered them. Come, young master, sit down. Today, I dare to offer you a drink. She smiled dreamily like a flower, walked to Fang Yuan's side, boldly took his hand, and pulled him to sit down on the long bench by the table. Then she sat directly on Fang Yuan's lap, her soft body leaning against his chest, like a little bird nestled against him, whispering in his ear, Young Master Fang Yuan, I have always liked you. No matter what my aptitude is, I want to follow you, rely on you, and comfort you. Tonight, I want to give my body to you. She was dressed resplendently today. Her lips were like peach blossoms, and because she spoke so close to his ear, her soft, youthful breath teased Fang Yuan's earlobe. Because she was leaning against his chest, Fang Yuan could clearly feel Shen Kui's full figure. Her thighs were supple, her waist slender, and her breasts soft. Young master, let me serve you wine. Shen Kui raised her wineglass, tilted her head back, and sipped the wine. Then, her eyes seemed to well up with tears as she silently gazed at Fang Yuan. Her small, cherry-red lips parted slightly, slowly moving closer to Fang Yuan's. Fang Yuan's expression was cold, as if he weren't sitting in the lap of a human being, but a statue. Seeing Fang Yuan's expression, Shen Kui initially felt a little apprehensive, but when her lips were only a fingertip's distance from Fang Yuan's, she calmed down, inwardly scoffing, still pretending. At that moment, Fang Yuan let out a cold laugh, his voice filled with disdain. So it was just seduction. Shen Kui's expression stiffened. She swallowed the wine in her mouth, feigning a sharp tone. Young Master Fang Yuan, what are you saying? Fang Yuan's deep eyes radiated a cold light as he stared intently at Shen Kui, his right hand rising to her snow-white neck, slowly applying pressure. Shen Kui's pupils contracted, her voice filled with terror. Young master, you're hurting me. Fang Yuan didn't reply, only increasing the pressure on her hand. Young Master Fang Yuan, I'm scared. Shen Kui was already struggling to breathe. Her face panicked, her soft hands instinctively reaching out to grab Fang Yuan's hand, trying to push him away. But Fang Yuan's grip was like iron, impossible to break. It seems your uncle sent you to seduce me. So, downstairs, you've already arranged your men, haven't you? Fang Yuan sneered contemptuously. But what do you think you are? Trying to seduce me, just with your breasts and those 2 pieces of trash? As he spoke, his left hand landed on Shen Kui's chest, ferociously gripping her soft breasts, instantly distorting them violently. Intense pain shot through her chest, causing Shen Kui's eyes to widen in agony. Tears welling up, she wanted to scream, but her throat was constricted by Fang Yuan's grip, leaving her only able to let out a few sobs. She began to resist fiercely. If she didn't, she would suffocate. But at that moment, Fang Yuan slowly loosened his grip. Shen Kui immediately opened her mouth wide, greedily inhaling air. Her rapid breathing led to a violent coughing fit. Fang Yuan chuckled softly, gently stroking Shen Kui's cheek with his hand, and leisurely said, Shen Kui, Do you think I can kill you? If Fang Yuan had roared in anger, Shen Kui might have resisted even more fiercely. But when Fang Yuan spoke with such a casual smile, gently asking if he could kill her, Shen Kui felt a deep-seated fear. She was afraid. She stared at Fang Yuan in horror, at the young man who was smiling with narrowed eyes. At this moment, Shen Kui swore she would never forget Fang Yuan's eyes. These eyes, devoid of any chaotic emotions, were pitch black and profound, like a bottomless pit concealing a terrifying beast. Under the gaze of these eyes, Shen Kui felt like a naked person in the midst of a snowstorm. This person before her absolutely dared to kill her, could kill her. Oh my God, why did I have to provoke such a devil? Shen Kui was filled with regret. At this moment, she wished she could turn and run. But she was in Fang Yuan's arms, and she didn't dare to escape, or even make a single move. Her whole body was tense, her delicate form trembling, her face as pale as paper, unable to utter a single word. Out of consideration for you being my personal maid, serving me for so many years, I won't kill you this time. You want to escape slavery, don't you? Go find my younger brother. He's so foolish and naive. Fang Yuan withdrew his smiling expression, patted Shen Kui's cheek, his voice calm as water. He sighed, finally saying, "Go." Shen Kui, stunned, obediently went outside. She was utterly distraught, not knowing how to escape from this devilish Fang Yuan. The team hidden in the shadows, seeing Shen Kui appear like this, exchanged puzzled glances. He even set up a beauty trap. That's quite a novel idea compared to my previous life. Ha ha, uncle and aunt, I'll remember your kindness this time. Shortly after Shen Kui left, Fang Yuan stood up and went out the door. No matter what, he couldn't stay here idly. A gentleman doesn't stand under a collapsing wall, let alone a demon. Only a fool would put himself in danger if he lacked sufficient strength. Innkeeper, do you have any rooms? Approaching the only inn in the mountain stronghold, Fang Yuan inquired about the prices. Yes, we have premium rooms on the second and third floors. Not only are they comfortable, but they're also very clean. Guests can dine on the first floor, or have the waiter bring food to their room. The innkeeper courteously greeted Fang Yuan. This was the only inn in the mountain stronghold, and business wasn't good, so it was rather deserted. Only when the merchant caravans came to Qingmao Mountain for trade each year would the inn be crowded with people. Fang Yuan was indeed a little hungry, so he tossed 2 complete spirit stones to the innkeeper. Give me a first-class room. I'll stay here for now. Also, prepare 2 jars of wine, 3 or 4 kinds of food, and more if needed. Yes, the innkeeper accepted the 2 spirit stones and asked, does the guest wish to eat in the room or watch the festivities in the hall? Fang Yuan glanced at the sky. The rain had stopped, and it was almost dusk. He decided to eat in the hall first, then head straight out of the camp to search for the flower wine practitioner's treasure. He told the innkeeper, let's eat in the hall. On the first floor of this inn, there were about 10 square tables, each surrounded by 4 long benches. Large pillars supported the inn between the tables. The floor was paved with marble, but it was damp, inevitably reflecting the mountain humidity. There were 3 groups of people inside. At a table by the window, an old man sat drinking, gazing out at the afternoon sunlight of the mountains, slowly enjoying his drink alone. At the very center of the room sat 5 or 6 hunters in a circle, loudly discussing their hunting experiences. A pile of prey, pheasants, rabbits, and other game, lay on the floor beside them. In another corner, 2 young people sat, seemingly discussing something secretly. Their bodies were shrouded in shadows, making it impossible to discern their gender. Fang Yuan chose a seat near the window, and shortly afterward, food and drink were brought to him. With my B-grade aptitude to refine the moonlight goo, I'll definitely need some spirit stones. If I'm lucky, this moonlight goo won't be very strong-willed, so I'll only need 5. If it's unyielding, then it's troublesome. I'll need at least 8. Goo worms are also living beings, naturally possessing a will to survive. Those with strong wills will resist the goo master's refining. Those with weak wills will eventually surrender in despair, once they lack resistance. The refining process is extremely easy. I only have 6 spirit stones left now. I gave 2 to the shopkeeper, leaving only 4. That's a bit short. In this world, spirit stones are a powerful currency with immense purchasing power. A mortal family of 3 can only afford 1 spirit stone a month for living expenses. However, for goo masters, spirit stones are a huge expense. For someone like Fang Yuan, just refining a goo requires an average of 7 standard spirit stones. This is just for the moonlight goo, if he were to find the wine worm and refine it. With Fang Yuan's talent, he would need at least 10 more spirit stones. In other words, the current situation is, even if I find the wine worm, I may not have enough spirit stones to refine it. However, I must continue searching, because the wine flower cultivator's treasure trove might contain a large quantity of spirit stones. This is not difficult to deduce. The wine practitioner is a 5th-rank goo master, a renowned demonic cultivator. How could he possibly be without spirit stones? The kind of essential items for goo masters to cultivate. Chapter 12: The Scent of Bamboo Wine. The ancient master shows off. Currently, all problems depend on the outcome from the wine cultivator's treasure. If I can find it, all obstacles will be easily resolved. If I can't find it, huge difficulties will slow down my cultivation speed. It will cause me to fall far behind my peers in the early stages of cultivation. It's incomprehensible. I spent more than a week trying to attract the wineworm. Why is it still ineffective? Fang Yuan frowned, lost in thought. He couldn't even taste the food in his mouth. Just then, a commotion interrupted his thoughts. Fang Yuan looked in the direction of the noise and found 6 hunters gathered around the table in the middle, drinking heavily, their faces flushed with anger. Brother Zhang, come on, have another drink. Brother Feng, we brothers admire your skill, dealing with a black wild boar all by yourself. You're truly a hero. You must drink this wine. Refusing would be disrespectful to us brothers. Thank you for your support, brothers, but I really can't drink any more. Brother Feng, are you refusing because you think this wine isn't good? Waiter, come here, bring me the best wine. The voices grew louder and louder, clearly indicating that the hunters had already had enough. The waiter, running errands, hurried over. Gentlemen, we have good wine, but it's a bit expensive. What, are you afraid I won't pay? Hearing this, several of the hunters stood up, glaring at the waiter. They were either tall and burly, with muscular physiques, or strong and imposing, possessing the fierce and courageous aura characteristic of mountain dwellers. The waiter hastily explained, feigning innocence, "How dare I disrespect you esteemed heroes? It's just that this wine is a bit too expensive. A single jar costs 2 spirit stones." The hunters were all astonished. 2 spirit stones wasn't cheap. It was the equivalent of 2 months' living expenses for an average family. Although hunters earn significantly more from hunting than ordinary people, sometimes even a black wild boar was only worth half a spirit stone. Hunting was dangerous, and sometimes they could become prey themselves. Spending 2 spirit stones on a jar of wine was simply not worth it for a hunter. Is there really wine that expensive? Young man, you can't trick us like that. The hunters shouted, but their voices were weak, and they were too embarrassed to back down. The waiter didn't even dare to shout. The hunter in the middle, named Feng Ge, seeing the unpleasant scene, quickly intervened to mediate. Brothers, let's not waste any more money. We can't drink today. What are you saying, brother? This isn't right yet. The remaining hunters exclaimed, but their voices gradually faded as they sat down one by one. The waiter, being a shrewd fellow, knew the sale wouldn't go through. However, he couldn't blame them for the situation. Just as he was about to leave, a young man's voice suddenly came from a table in the corner. "Ha ha. That's really funny. What are you blind fools shouting about? If you can't afford the wine, then shut up and move aside." Hearing this, one of the hunters immediately became agitated and shouted, "Who says we can't afford it? Waiter, bring the jar of wine. I'll give you a lot of raw stones. Not just two." "Ah, sir, wait a moment. Coming." The waiter, surprised by the sudden turn of events, immediately responded, turned around, and brought up a jar of wine. This wine jar was only half the size of a normal one. But when the seal was broken, a pure aroma of wine immediately wafted out, filling the air. The old man sitting alone by the window, drinking wine, couldn't help but turn his head to look at the jar because of this aroma. It was truly delicious wine. "Gentlemen, I'm not boasting. This is the finest Qingzhou wine, the only one in our inn in the entire mountain stronghold. Please smell this wine," the waiter said, taking a deep breath, his face filled with enjoyment and satisfaction. Fang Yuan's heart stirred. The waiter wasn't exactly boasting. There were 3 taverns in Gu Yue mountain stronghold, all selling ordinary rice wine and cloudy liquor, of roughly the same type. Fang Yuan, in order to attract the wineworm, had bought wine for 7 consecutive days, so he naturally knew the market price. The hunters, looking at the wine jar in front of them, were all tempted by the wine, and they all sniffed and swallowed. The hunter who had impulsively bought the wine earlier now had an even more peculiar and frustrated expression. This jar of wine was worth 2 blocks of raw ore. "I bought this wine on impulse. This waiter is too dishonest. He brought it up immediately. And now that the seal has been broken, I can't return it." The more the hunter thought about it, the more he wanted to back out, but he also felt too embarrassed. Finally, he could only slam his hand on the table and laugh loudly, saying, "Damn it, this wine is good. Brothers, drink to your heart's content. This wine is on me today." At this moment, the young man at the corner of the table let out a mocking laugh. "So it's just a small jar of wine. How can 6 people drink it? If you have the guts, buy a few more jars." Hearing these words, the hunter's veins bulged. He jumped up, his face turning purple with anger, and glared at the young man, shouting, "You little brat, you talk too much. Come here, step forward, and spar with me." "Oh, I'm coming out." Hearing this, the young man stood up, a sinister smile playing on his lips as he emerged from the shadows. He was tall and thin, his complexion pale, and he wore a neat, clean dark green martial arts uniform. He had a light jade green headband, a short jacket that revealed his thin shoulders, trousers, pointed bamboo shoes, and leg wraps. Most importantly, a green cloth belt cinched his waist. A gleaming copper plate was embedded in the middle of the belt, bearing the black character 1. A first-level Gu master. The hunter, who had just shouted, clearly understood the significance of this attire. He gasped, his angry expression vanishing, replaced by fear. He hadn't expected to provoke a Gu master. "You wanted to spar with me, didn't you? Come on, let's fight." The young Gu master leisurely approached, a humorous smile on his face. But the hunters who had just provoked him stood there like statues, not moving an inch. "Or you can all come at me together," the young sorcerer said casually, walking slowly towards the hunters' table. The hunters' faces changed. Their flushed faces instantly turned pale. Cold sweat dripped from their foreheads. They were restless, not daring to breathe a word. The young sorcerer lifted a jar of Qingzhou wine, sniffed it, and chuckled. "It's truly fragrant. If you like it, Master Sorcerer, please take it and drink it. Consider it my offense against you. And I apologize." The hunter who had shouted provocatively quickly clasped his hands together, a smile on his face. Unexpectedly, the young sorcerer's expression suddenly changed, and with a crash, he threw the jar of wine to the ground. The old master's face was cold, his eyes like swords, And he roared in a deep voice, "Do you even have the right to apologize to me? You hunters are so rich. Even richer than me, yet you bring 2 raw stones to buy wine. Do you know, I'm worried about the raw stones. And you dare to show off your wealth in front of me at this time. Are you mere mortals worthy?" Quote, "We wouldn't dare, we wouldn't dare. We have offended you, sir, we deserve to die 1,000 times over. We were all unintentionally offended you. These are the raw stones we have on us. Please accept them, old master." The hunters stood up as if electrocuted, pulling out raw stones from their chests. However, these mortals had no money. They only pulled out small, scattered pieces of raw stone, the largest being only a quarter of a stone. The young old master didn't accept these raw stones, only sneering and sneering at them with his hawk-like gaze. The hunters, under his gaze, bowed their heads one by one. The old man sitting at the table by the window, watching the commotion, also quickly turned his head, avoiding the Gu master's eyes. Only Fang Yuan watched silently, without any fear. The attire of this young Gu master could only be worn by official Gu masters. Even Fang Yuan was not qualified. Only after graduating from the academy could Fang Yuan receive it from his family. The copper plaque on the young Gu master's belt bore the character 1, indicating his status as a first-rank Gu master. But he already looked to be in his 20s, and the aura of Yuan Qi emanating from him suggested he was a high-level first rank. Having started cultivating at 15, and still being over 20 years old, this indicated that this young Gu master's aptitude was only at the Ding level, a notch below Fang Yuan's. It was very likely that he was merely a logistical Gu master, not even considered a combat Gu master. But even so, dealing with 6 burly hunters was still more than enough. This was the difference in strength between Gu masters and ordinary people. Having strength means being high and mighty. This is the nature of this world. No matter what world it is, the big fish eat the small fish, and the small fish eat the shrimp and prawns. It's just that this world expresses it more brutally. Fang Yuan sighed inwardly. All right, Jiang Ya, just teach them a lesson. Don't make things difficult for these ordinary people. If word gets out, you might not mind losing face. But I do. Another young person sitting in the corner of the room spoke up. Hearing her words, everyone realized that this young person was a woman. The young Gu master named Jiang Ya, embarrassed by his female companion's words, stopped sneering and didn't even look at the small pieces of raw stones the hunters offered. These raw stones combined didn't even amount to 2 blocks. He naturally had no interest in them. He flicked his sleeve, walked back to his seat, and as he went, he snarled, "If you dare continue drinking the green bamboo wine, I want to see who else dares to drink this wine." The hunters all bowed their heads low, being scolded like 6 obedient grandchildren. The strong smell of wine filled the air. The hunter who bought the wine felt his muscles twitch in pain. He had bought this wine with 2 spirit stones, and yet he couldn't even take a sip. Fang Yuan stopped eating. He was full, smelling the strong aroma of the wine. His eyes flashed a few times, and suddenly he pulled out 2 spirit stones, placed them on the table, and coldly said, "Waiter, bring me a jar of green bamboo wine." The whole place was stunned. The young Gu master Jiang Ya immediately stopped in his tracks, his mouth twitching, and he snorted. He had just snarled, and Fang Yuan had bought this jar of wine. Wasn't this meant to humiliate him? To slap him in the face? He turned around, narrowed his eyes, and glared menacingly at Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan calmly met his gaze, his expression indifferent, showing no fear. Jiang Ya's eyes flashed, and the chilling atmosphere gradually dissipated. He sensed the true essence aura emanating from Fang Yuan. He knew Fang Yuan's identity and immediately broke into a warm, spring-like smile. "So, it's you, Junior." The others suddenly realized, and their gazes towards Fang Yuan changed. No wonder this young man wasn't afraid of Gu masters at all. It turned out he was also a Gu master. Although still in the academy, their natures were already different. Gu master, your wine. The waiter rushed over, his face beaming with flattery. Fang Yuan nodded to the young Gu master Jiang Ya, took the wine jar, and left the inn. Chapter 13. Bamboo Forest Under the Moonlight. A single white snowflake. Approximately 300 years ago, a genius emerged in the ancient Moon tribe. His talent surpassed all others. Even as a young man, he had already cultivated to the 5th rank ancient master level, and could have advanced further. Famous throughout Qingmao Mountain, his fame was boundless, and his tribesmen placed their hopes and responsibilities upon him. He was the legendary 4th tribal chief of the ancient Moon tribe. Sadly, to protect his people, the 4th chief fought against the demon Huaju Xingjie, also a 5th rank ancient master. Although after a fierce battle, he defeated Huaju Xingjie and forced him to beg for forgiveness. He was ultimately ambushed by Huaju Xingjie. Enraged, the 4th chief killed Huaju Xingjie, but suffered severe and irreparable injuries, dying prematurely in his prime. This tragic ancient tale, still passed down to this day, is widely praised by the Gu Yue clan. However, Fang Yuan also understood that this story couldn't be entirely believed, because it had a huge flaw. In his previous life, a month later, a Gu master, heartbroken, got drunk and lay dead outside the mountain stronghold. The smell of alcohol spread everywhere, unexpectedly attracting a wineworm. The Gu master chased after the wineworm and discovered the remains of the wine practitioner in a secret cave, along with the wine practitioner's personal belongings. The Gu master hurriedly returned to his clan and reported this, causing a great sensation. When the storm subsided, he also benefited from it. Acquiring the wineworm, his cultivation increased, and the girl who had abandoned him instead pursued him, making him a prominent figure in the stronghold. It's normal for ancient stories to change over time as they are passed down through generations. However, in Fang Yuan's memory, the Gu master's discovery of the treasure, while seemingly authentic and believable, still harbored suspicions of a hidden truth. I hadn't noticed it before, but these past few days, while searching and analyzing, I've discovered something strange. As night deepened, Fang Yuan walked into the bamboo forest surrounding the mountain stronghold, mentally reviewing and integrating all the clues he knew. Quote, putting myself in someone else's shoes, assuming I was that Gu master, having discovered the flower wine practitioner's treasure, why wouldn't I keep it to myself, but instead report it to my family? Don't talk about family honor. Everyone has greed. What motivated the Gu master to go against his own desires, willingly abandoning all benefits to report this discovery to the family's high-ranking officials? The truth remained shrouded in the thick fog of history, and Fang Yuan's deep contemplation yielded no conclusion. There were too few clues anyway, just 2 leads to find the treasure, and even those were a mix of truth and falsehood, impossible to fully trust. Fang Yuan couldn't help but think to himself, no matter what. After buying this green bamboo wine, I only have 2 spirit stones left. If I can't find the treasure, it'll be troublesome. Today, I'll try my luck, all or nothing. However, he wouldn't have enough spirit stones to refine the Gu worms. It would be better to invest in this wine, increasing his chances of success. Most people would proceed systematically, accumulating spirit stones. But for Fang Yuan, the efficiency was too low. He preferred to take risks, seeing what might happen. People in the demonic path always love taking risks. At this moment, the night deepened, the spring moon like a crescent. Drifting clouds obscured the moonlight, as if covering the crescent moon with a thin, faint veil, because of the 3 days and 3 nights of continuous heavy rain. The turbid air on the mountain had been thoroughly cleansed, leaving only the purest freshness. The air was so cool and pure, like a blank sheet of paper, which was even more conducive to the aroma of the wine spreading. This was one of the reasons Fang Yuan was so confident tonight. Only this area remains to be searched. Reaching a bamboo forest, he stopped. The 7 days of searching hadn't been fruitless. At least it proved that the flower wine practitioner hadn't died in those places. This was Fang Yuan's second reason for his confidence. In the bamboo forest, fragrant grass grew densely, white flowers bloomed everywhere, and the tall bamboo stalks stood straight like jade staffs. Fang Yuan opened the mud-covered wine jar, and immediately a strong aroma of wine assailed his nostrils. Green bamboo wine, arguably the finest wine in the ancient Moon Mountain village. This was Fang Yuan's third reason for his confidence tonight. With these 3 major reasons combined, if I can succeed, it will definitely be tonight. Fang Yuan silently encouraged himself while slowly tilting the wine jar, pouring a stream of bamboo green wine onto the rock. If the hunters had seen this, they would surely have been heartbroken. This wine was worth 2 stone blocks. But Fang Yuan remained indifferent. The pure aroma of the wine quickly spread, and in the darkness, a gentle breeze blew, causing the plum blossoms to sway, coloring a patch of bamboo forest. Fang Yuan stood there, inhaling the scent of the wine, waiting for a moment, but heard no movement. Suddenly, he heard a nightingale calling from not far away, its voice like a silver bell. His gaze was calm, and he wasn't surprised. He moved his feet, turning and walking another 100 meters. Here, he did as before, pouring out some more wine, and standing there waiting for a moment. He did this repeatedly, going around several places, pouring wine several times, until there was hardly any left in the green bamboo wine jar. One last time, Fang Yuan sighed inwardly, holding the wine jar in his hand, turning it completely upside down, bottom facing upwards, pouring out all the remaining wine. The wine splashed into the grass. The green grass swayed, and the wildflowers, wet with wine, drooped their heads. Fang Yuan stood there, clinging to his last hope, gazing around. It was very late at night. A thick, dark cloud obscured the moonlight. The darkness, like a stage curtain, covered this bamboo forest. The surroundings were silent and deserted, each green bamboo standing tall, leaving a straight line in Fang Yuan's eyes. He stood silently, listening to his own incredibly clear breathing, then felt the hope in his chest steadily slipping away, leaving behind emptiness. Still a failure? He murmured to himself. Tonight, I had 3 major advantages combined. Yet I failed to find even a trace of the wineworm. This means the probability of success will be lower in the future. I only have 2 primeval stones left, and I still need to refine the moonlight goo. I can't take any more risks. Risky outcomes are often not ideal, but one day, an ideal outcome would certainly yield great rewards. Fang Yuan liked taking risks, but he didn't gamble recklessly. He wasn't the kind of gambler who would blindly lose and desperately try to recoup his losses. He had his limits, he knew his capital. Now, his 500 years of life experience told him it was time to stop. Sometimes, life is like that. There's often a goal, so beautiful, so tempting, it seems so close, yet so fraught with obstacles, ultimately unattainable. It left one restless, reminiscing about the beautiful dream. This is life's helplessness, and also its allure. Fang Yuan smiled bitterly, shaking his head, and turned to leave. But at that moment, a gust of wind blew, like a gentle wing, softly scattering the clouds in the night sky. The clouds drifted away, revealing the crescent moon. The crescent moon hung in the sky like a white lamp, casting its clear, water-like light. The moonlight slanted into the Qingmao bamboo forest, onto the Rocky Mountains, onto the stream in the mountain gorge, and onto Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan wore simple clothes, his youthful face appearing even fairer in the gentle touch of the moonlight. The darkness seemed to vanish in an instant, replaced by a breathtaking spectacle. As if infected by the moonlight, the nightingales began to sing again, this time not just one, but several, scattered throughout the bamboo forest. their calls echoing incessantly. At the same time, various mountain creatures, under the moonlight, swayed and sang their boisterous songs of life. They were nocturnal creatures, their bodies glowing red, and now they emerged in swarms, each one gradually revealing a reddish-brown agate-like sheen. Fang Yuan observed them, and these long wan crickets resembled a shimmering stream of red water, leaping and dancing among the wildflowers and green grass under the moonlight. The bamboo forest was like a clear droplet of water, and the jade-colored bamboo under the moonlight suddenly shone with a radiant, jade-like brilliance. At this moment, nature revealed its most exquisite beauty to Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan involuntarily stopped, feeling as if he were in a celestial realm. He had originally intended to turn and leave, but instinctively turned back to look. The green bamboo wine lay spilled on the wildflowers, swaying in the wind, still empty. Fang Yuan chuckled self-deprecatingly, averting his gaze. Unexpectedly, while gazing around, he caught sight of a snow-white shadow. This white shadow clung to a nearby green bamboo, its reflection like a perfectly round pearl under the moonlight. Fang Yuan's eyes widened, his body trembled slightly, his heart pounded, and his heartbeat quickened. It was the wineworm. Chapter 14: The Mystery Hidden in the Rock Crevice. The wineworm resembled a silkworm, its entire body radiating a jade-like white light. It was slightly plump and very adorable in appearance. It fed on wine and could fly through the air. While flying, its body would curl into a ball, and its speed was very fast. Although it was a first-rank goo worm, its value was even greater than some second-rank goo worms. If used as a life-bound goo, it would be far better than the moonlight goo. At this moment, such a wineworm was clinging to a green spear bamboo, only 50 or 60 steps away from Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan held his breath, not daring to approach, but slowly retreating. He knew that although this distance was very close, directly capturing the wineworm would be extremely difficult for him, a newly awakened goo master. In fact, there was no hope of success from the start. Although Fang Yuan's eyesight was still impaired, he couldn't clearly see the wineworm's form, but he sensed that the wineworm was on guard. Fang Yuan retreated very slowly and gently, trying his best not to disturb the wineworm. He knew that if the wineworm wanted to fly away, his speed was absolutely no match for it. He could only wait until it was completely drunk and its flight speed slowed down before he had a chance to catch it. Seeing Fang Yuan retreating further and further, the wineworm lying on the bamboo couldn't help but stir intoxicated. If it had saliva, it would have probably drooled into a large puddle by now, but the wineworm's vigilance remained high. Fang Yuan retreated 200 steps before it finally sprang up and leaped into the air as it flew through the air. It curled its body into a ball, like a smooth, white dumpling, the glutinous rice dumpling, gliding through the air in a smooth arc, landed on the drop of bamboo blossom wine that Fang Yuan had sprinkled on the grass with the delicious food so close. The wineworm lowered its guard by more than half. It quickly climbed to the flower bud containing the wine, sticking its head inside, leaving only its plump tail exposed. It was extremely hungry, and the bamboo blossom wine was so delicious. It took large gulps, quickly becoming engrossed in the taste. Forgetting about Fang Yuan behind it, Fang Yuan then began to cautiously and quietly approach the wineworm's tail emerged from the flower. This tail resembled that of a silkworm, plump, soft, and shimmering like pearls. First, its tail remained motionless. Soon after, it began to twitch, clearly showing the wineworm was thoroughly enjoying the wine. Finally, when Fang Yuan had approached within 10 steps, its tail wagged from side to side, vibrating with a joyful rhythm. Completely drunk. Seeing this, Fang Yuan almost burst out laughing. He didn't continue forward, but patiently waited. If he rushed forward now, he would certainly have a relatively high chance of catching the wineworm. But Fang Yuan still wanted this wineworm to lead him to the corpse of the wineflower practitioner. A short while later, The wineworm emerged from the flower bud. Its body had visibly fattened up, its head swaying back and forth like a drunken man, clearly unaware of Fang Yuan's presence. It then climbed onto another pale yellow wildflower, settling in the pistil and devouring the wine. This time, after drinking, it finally felt full. The body on the petals slowly contracted into a ball, then slowly floated upwards, reaching a height of 1.5 meters above the ground before leisurely flying deeper into the bamboo forest. Fang Yuan hurried after it. The wineworm was completely drunk, its flying speed half that of usual. But even so, Fang Yuan had to run at full speed to keep up with its shadow. The night seemed to be cleansed, and the young man swiftly traversed the bamboo forest, chasing after a handful of snow not far ahead. The moonlight was gentle, and a cool breeze blew slowly. In the bamboo forest, like a drop of clear water, a verdant green bamboo stalk briefly appeared before Fang Yuan's eyes before quickly disappearing behind him. On the ground, there was lush green grass, dotted with wildflowers. There were also small moss-covered stones and immature yellow bamboo shoots. Fang Yuan's faint phantom also glided across the ground quickly, passing over the straight black streaks of the green bamboo stalks. He gazed intently at the white figure in the plum blossom forest, taking deep breaths of the cool mountain air, and quickened his pace to follow closely behind. Because of his swift movement, the moonlight before him shimmered like water, and the scenery shifted rapidly, like algae swaying in the water. The wineworm flew out of the bamboo forest, and Fang Yuan also rushed out. A large expanse of dazzling white, the yellow flowers beneath his feet swaying in the wind, their petals fluttering. A swarm of dragon ring crickets, like a flowing poem, moved forward. Fang Yuan charged straight through, and with a sudden rustling sound, the crimson glow before him split apart, dissolving into a multitude of bright red dots. A quiet mountain stream flowed, pebbles scattered, water gurgling, reflecting the spring moon in the night sky. With a few splashes, Fang Yuan's wading through shattered into thousands upon thousands of silver ripples. Alas, the stream, wind, and moon shattered into pieces. This line is from the poem West River Moonlight, by Su Shi. It's not a poetic translation. Please understand. Fang Yuan relentlessly pursued, steadily following Ju Chong. From the direction of the stream ahead, he vaguely heard the sound of a waterfall, circling around a sparse patch of forest. He saw Ju Chong fly into a narrow crevice between rocks. Fang Yuan's eyes suddenly brightened, and he finally stopped. So it's here, he gasped for breath, his heart pounding. As soon as he stopped, he felt his whole body drenched in sweat, the heat surging through his blood, stirring his entire being. Looking around, he discovered it was a shallow riverbed. Large and small pebbles covered the ground, the river water only about a finger's width above the pebbles. There were also large grayish-white rocks scattered here. Behind Qingmao Mountain was a large waterfall. The waterfall cascaded down, falling thousands of feet, forming a deep lake. Beside the lake lay the powerful Bai family mountain stronghold, equally formidable as the Gu Yue mountain stronghold. The waterfall branched off, and the one Fang Yuan was facing was clearly one of its branches. This riverbank was normally very dry. However, recently, after 3 days and 3 nights of continuous heavy rain, a gurgling stream had accumulated here. The source of the stream was the large rock that the wineworm had burrowed into. The rock rested against the sheer cliff face. A long, small waterfall branched off from the main waterfall, like a large silver snake slithering down the cliff, eroding the middle of the rock year after year, creating a gap. Now, the waterfall roared, its pure white curtain completely concealing the gap in the rock. Thanks to his observation, Fang Yuan's breathing had calmed down. A determined glint flashed in his eyes as he walked to the edge of the rock, took a deep breath, and plunged in. The gap in the rock was quite large. 2 adults could easily fit inside side by side. Moreover, Fang Yuan was only a 15-year-old boy. As soon as he plunged in, the water quickly pressed down on him, and icy cold water instantly drenched him. Enduring the water pressure, Fang Yuan strode forward, taking more than 10 steps before the pressure gradually subsided. However, the gap also narrowed, forcing Fang Yuan to lean to one side as he went. The sound of rushing water filled his ears. A bright white light shone above him, and the deeper into the rock, the more darkness remained. What lurked in the darkness? Perhaps it was a venomous snake. Perhaps a highly poisonous lizard. Perhaps a trap set by the demonic flower wine practitioner. Or perhaps nothing at all. Fang Yuan leaned forward, slowly making his way into the darkness. The water above his head was gone. Green moss covered the cliff face, slipping against Fang Yuan's skin. Incredibly slippery. Fang Yuan was completely swallowed by the darkness, the crevice narrowing more and more, gradually making it impossible for him to move his head freely. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth and continued forward. After more than 20 steps, he noticed a bright red light in the darkness. At first, he thought it was an illusion, but after blinking a few times and focusing his gaze, he confirmed that it was indeed light. This discovery filled him with joy. After another 50 or 60 steps, the red light grew brighter and brighter, and gradually, on Fang Yuan's retina, the image of a long, slender, vertical crack appeared. He straightened his left arm, suddenly feeling that the cliff in front of him was gone. Fang Yuan was immediately overjoyed, knowing that there was indeed a space inside this rock. He took a few quick steps and finally squeezed into the gap. A spacious area of about 80 square meters opened up before him. I've walked such a long distance. I've already passed the rock. I must be in the middle of the cliff now. He stretched his limbs while observing this mysterious space. The entire space was filled with a dim red light, the source of which was unknown. The surrounding cliffs were very damp and covered in green moss. Yet the air was very dry. On the cliffs, there was a pile of dead, withered vines, the vines intertwined, covering more than half of the surrounding cliffs. Above them were some withered flowers and plants. Fang Yuan looked at these withered flowers and felt a sense of familiarity. It's the wine pouch flower goo and the great rice grass goo. Suddenly, he remembered, recognizing the withered flower and vine. Goo come in many forms. Some resemble minerals, like the moonlight goo with its blue crystal-like shape. Some resemble insects, like the wineworm, which looks like a silkworm. And then there are the flower-like goo, the wine pouch flower goo and the great ricegrass goo before Fang Yuan. Both of these goo are naturally first-stage goo. They can grow simply by infusing them with true essence. After growing, the flower pistils will secrete nectar, and fragrant rice grains will grow in the plant pouches. Fang Yuan's gaze followed the roots of the vines. And sure enough, he discovered a cluster of withered plants protruding from the wall. The wineworms lived on these plants, snoring away, easily captured. Fang Yuan walked over, first capturing the wineworm in his chest, then squatting down and pushing aside the dead vines to discover a skeleton wrapped inside. Finally found you, wine flower practitioner. Seeing this, a smile appeared on his lips. Just as he was about to peel away all the dead vines, a voice filled with killing intent suddenly rang out from behind Fang Yuan. Try moving a muscle. Chapter 15. History is written by the victors. Inside the secret cave, a voice suddenly came from behind. At this moment, Fang Yuan's hair stood on end, his scalp tingling. He was being followed again. Could it be that his frequent outings these past few days had attracted the attention of someone with ulterior motives? Or had someone sent him? Even the first-rank Gu master in the hotel, the young man Jiang Ya, flashed through his mind. In an instant, countless thoughts and speculations arose in his mind, and he rapidly calculated a solution. Fang Yuan could feel the deep killing intent in that short sentence. This made him inwardly groan. He was only a first-rank early-stage Gu master. without even a life-bound goo. His combat power was practically zero compared to other goo masters. How could he fight? Too weak, he roared inwardly. You've been poisoned by my sect's goo poison. Without my counter goo, you'll definitely turn into a pool of blood and die in 7 days. The voice behind him rang out again. Fang Yuan gritted his teeth. His expression calm, his voice low. You want the wineworm? I can give it to you. He slowly stood up, his movements very slow. But at this moment, another voice suddenly rang out. This voice was full of fear. Trembling. I'll give it to you. I can give you anything. I only beg you to spare my life. Lord Wineworm Practitioner. Wait a moment. This is. Fang Yuan's eyebrows furrowed, and he turned around. On the cliff before him, the light and shadows shifted, revealing an image like something out of a movie on Earth. A sharp-looking goo master stood on the mountaintop, and at his feet, another goo master knelt prostrate. Around the two goo masters were deep, collapsed pits and shattered rocks, clearly indicating a fierce battle had just taken place. Not far from them, a group of old men stood observing, their faces filled with terror at the sight. The victorious goo master in the middle of the arena threw his head back and laughed loudly, ha ha ha. Goo Yue hero. It's a pity you're so young yet already have a 5th rank cultivation. I originally thought you were quite formidable, but I didn't expect you to be so weak. HMPH. This laughing goo master had long, narrow eyes and wore a light-colored robe with wide sleeves that fluttered in the wind. The collar was open, revealing his chest muscles as solid as white jade. What was most striking was his bald head, gleaming brightly, without a single strand of hair. Flower Wine Practitioner. Fang Yuan recognized this goo master's identity. Compared to Lord Hua, what am I? I was so muddled and blind that I offended Lord Hua. Lord Hua, please, for the sake of our clan's hospitality in the past, spare my life. The goo master knelt on the ground, his body trembling, cold sweat pouring down, tears falling to the ground as he begged for forgiveness. Fang Yuan narrowed his eyes, carefully observing, and discovered that this goo master was wearing the attire of the clan chief of the Goo Yue tribe. Judging by his appearance, he was clearly the 4th-generation clan chief. And the elders standing watching were likely the clan's elders from that time. Ha ha, a warm welcome. You're shameless. I was sincere in my intentions. Trading with you, buying your clan's moon orchid flowers with my own stones at a very reasonable price. It was you who were devious, pretending to welcome me, tricking me into sitting at the banquet, and wanting to poison the wine with goo. You underestimate me too much. I've wandered the world, making a name for myself with flower wine. How could I possibly be poisoned by this? The flower wine practitioner pointed his finger at the kneeling 4th-generation clan chief. Sneering, a pleasant cooperation would have avoided this. Trying to use my head to buy fame and fortune is your own doing. My lord, please spare my life, the 4th-generation clan chief cried out in terror, crawling on his knees to the flower wine practitioner's feet, clinging to his thigh. My lord, my clan has a spiritual spring that produces primal stones, and underground caves where large areas of moon orchid flowers are cultivated. I am willing to consume your slave goo, become your slave. My life and death depend on your will, and serve you for life. Fang Yuan watched without speaking, causing the expressions of the elders in the image to change continuously. The wine flower practitioner narrowed his eyes, his anger subsiding, a cunning glint flashing in his eyes. HMPH. The slave goo is extremely precious. A 5-ton goo worm. Do you think I would possess it? However, you have my poisonous goo in your body, and only I can cure it. I'm not afraid of your resistance. Since that's the case, your clan will supply me with 30 pounds of moon orchid flower petals every week, along with 3,000 pieces of primal stones. I will come to collect the goods periodically and cure you once, sparing your dog's life. Thank you, Lord, for sparing my life. Thank you, Lord, for sparing my life. The fourth-generation clan chief kept shouting, bowing repeatedly, his forehead hitting the rocky mountain, blood flowing continuously. HMPH. Don't bow down. I hate groveling petty people like you. Gu Yue. A genius. A 5-turn expert. All talk and no action. Serve me well, and that's how I'll spare your life. Ugh. The wine-drinking practitioner suddenly cried out, a look of terrified trembling on his face. The man kicked the fourth-generation clan chief away with one swift blow. The chief staggered backward in terror, shouting at him, "How did you get that goo?" The fourth-generation clan chief struck in the chest by the kick, spat out a mouthful of blood. He struggled to his feet, a smug, triumphant smile on his face. Ha ha. Those in the demonic path must be killed. This goo is called Moon Shadow. Most skilled at concealment, although it's only a 4th-stage goo. It can already restrict the true essence of the primordial sea. Demon, you and I fought fiercely for a long time. And you don't have a single goo left on you. How can you possibly subdue the Moon Shadow goo? Surrender obediently, become my servant, and if you serve me well, you'll have a chance to live. The wine-drinking practitioner's face turned purple with rage, roaring, "Get the hell out of here!" Before he finished speaking, he darted forward like lightning, punching the fourth-generation clan chief in the heart. The fourth clan chief was surprised that the flower wine practitioner could attack like that. Even with his primordial sea threatened, he refused to compromise. The immense power pressed down, sending him flying, his body falling to the ground like a tattered sack. PFFT. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, mixed with countless fragments of internal organs. Are you insane? We could have negotiated. He glared at the flower wine practitioner, his lips struggling to move. Before he could finish his sentence, he kicked his legs, tilted his head, and died. Clan chief. Those in the demonic path are truly insane. Kill that demon, avenge the clan chief. He has the Moon Shadow goo within him. His primordial essence cannot be freely manipulated. In a moment, even his primordial sea will be threatened. The elders watching the battle roared in anger, rushing forward. Ha ha ha, come on, you want to die? The wine-drinking practitioner looked up to the sky and let out a long roar, directly confronting the elders' attack. After a fierce battle, the wine-drinking practitioner quickly took control of the situation. Soon, the elders were dead, wounded, and paralyzed, falling to the ground. He was about to kill the remaining elders when his expression suddenly changed. He clutched his stomach and exclaimed, "Damn it! I'll punish you all later." The wine-drinking practitioner glared fiercely at the elders, then fled like lightning, disappearing into the mountains and forests in an instant. Chapter 16. Gathering everything into a bag. Try moving. You've been poisoned by my goo poison. Without my corresponding goo antidote, in 7 days, you'll surely turn into a pool of blood and die. Compared to Lord Huaju, what am I? I was foolish and blind. Offending Lord Huaju. Lord Huaju, please consider the kindness my clan showed me before and spare my life. On the wall, the image began to repeat for the second time. Fang Yuan remained silent until the image repeated for the third time. Only then did he sigh deeply and say, "So that's it." The method of recording this image and sound on the cliff must be the Huaju practitioner's use of the image-retaining sound goo. This goo can record images and project them. The shadow-preserving green goo survives by absorbing light and sound. The cave-like cliff, whose origin is unknown, nonetheless emits a reddish glow, and the rock crevices connecting to the outside don't block out external sounds. Fang Yuan is here, and the roar of a small waterfall fills his ears. Therefore, the shadow-preserving green goo lives in this cave. Perhaps Fang Yuan's pushing aside of the withered vines just now disturbed the shadow-preserving green goo hidden within the cliff. Anyone with a solid mind can deduce that this scene is definitely real. Years ago, the fourth clan chief's assassination attempt on the flower wine practitioner failed. After his defeat, he launched a sneak attack, repelling the opponent but ultimately losing his life. This history is not very honorable, and the surviving elders are trying to cover up the truth. They've reversed the roles of the fourth clan chief and the flower wine practitioner, portraying the flower wine practitioner as the defeated villain who was ambushed and killed on the spot. The fourth clan chief became a glorious and outstanding hero. However, this ancient story has a major flaw. The flower wine practitioner was clearly defeated on the spot. His remains likely in the hands of the ancient Moon tribe. Yet why were another set of remains discovered? In his previous life, the Goo Master who discovered this place must have been terrified after seeing this footage. The surviving elders had long since passed away, but to prevent the flower wine practitioner's return, this truth was likely kept secret among the clan's high-ranking members. The Goo Master felt that monopolizing the treasure would be extremely dangerous. If anyone discovered his connection with the flower wine practitioner, the clan's high-ranking members would undoubtedly want to eliminate him. Therefore, after much deliberation, he dared not conceal the treasure and reported it to the high-ranking members for a decision. This behavior further demonstrates his loyalty to the clan. His later circumstances also showed that he had made a wise choice. Just because he did that didn't mean Fang Yuan had to. It was so hard to find this treasure. Why should I monopolize it? What if I get caught? Without taking risks, where would the profit come from? That Goo Master is such a coward. Fang Yuan sneered, ignoring the image on the stone wall that was repeating itself, and turned around, forcefully pulling out the dead, withered vine. The corpse of the wine flower practitioner was also affected. It was originally intact but now shattered into several pieces. Fang Yuan didn't care at all, kicking away a troublesome thigh bone from his leg, and once again squatting down to search for the treasure. First, he found a bag of spirit stones. Opening it, he saw only 15. Poor devil, Fang Yuan muttered. The wine flower practitioner, despite his outwardly glorious appearance, had accumulated so little. But he quickly figured out the reason. After the fierce battle, the wine practitioner was afflicted by the moon shadow goo, so he naturally used the spirit stones to heal his wounds. Having 15 remaining was already quite good. Then, Fang Yuan discovered several dead goo corpses. Most were of the flower-type goo, completely withered. Goo are living beings. They need food to nourish themselves. And most are very picky, while the flower-type grass goo requires little food. This secret cave doesn't even have a single ray of sunlight. And then, there was nothing else. The wine practitioner, originally of the same rank as the fourth-generation clan chief, had engaged in a fierce battle, and then fought against 10 elders. His own goo worms had been greatly depleted. After arriving here, he wanted to heal his wounds. So he urged the wine pouch flower goo and the great grass goo to grow. But in the end, he was killed by the moon shadow goo. Over the course of 300 years, all the remaining goo on him had died. The only ones left were the shadow-preserving green goo on the cliff and the wine worm. This wine worm likely relied on the wine pouch flower goo to survive. However, as the wine pouch flower goo withered one by one, it lost its food source. This prompted it to venture out in search of wild wine pouch flowers. Then, tonight, it was attracted by the fragrant aroma of the green bamboo wine and came before Fang Yuan. The shadow-preserving green goo can only record once, belonging to the consumable goo type. It seems the wine worm is the biggest gain of this trip. No wonder that Goo Master wanted to report to his family. It seems the benefits were too small to warrant such a great risk. Fang Yuan understood in his heart. In his memory, that Goo Master was already a third-rank goo worm, while the wine worm was merely a first-rank goo worm. For Fang Yuan, it was quite valuable, but for that Goo Master, it was something he could have or not have without much difference. However, it was quite obvious that because of that Goo Master's report, the family would also reward him handsomely. Should I report this to the family? Fang Yuan thought for a moment, then dismissed the idea. The wineworm's treasure seemed to only contain the wineworm and the primeval stones. But that wasn't actually the case. The true value lay in the cliff concealing the shadow-retaining goo. Or rather, the image on the cliff that kept repeating and transmitting. This image could be sold to other mountain strongholds. He believed that this kind of concrete evidence, which would shatter the family's beliefs, would certainly pique the interest of the high-ranking members of the other two mountain strongholds on Qingmao Mountain. Their offer would undoubtedly be much higher than the family's reward. What? You're talking about family honor and loyalty? To be honest, Fang Yuan didn't have any regrets. Moreover, this scene wasn't a violent massacre or anything like that. It didn't inflict much real harm. And the cold-hearted family wouldn't value Fang Yuan anyway. He needed to rely on himself, exploit cultivation resources, and in the early stages of cultivation, he needed to borrow strength from all sides. Relying on the family, Fang Yuan chuckled inwardly. How could I be so naive like in my previous life? Don't expect anything from anyone. Everything in this world depends on yourself. After confirming that he had thoroughly searched this secret cave, Fang Yuan returned along the same path. Resisting the water pressure, he pushed his way out of the large rock and returned to the outside of the mountain. Turning back to look at the rock, Fang Yuan suddenly remembered his past life's memory of discovering corpses in an underground secret cave. But was this underground? It was clearly inside the cliff. No wonder I encountered such a huge obstacle, failing to find it even after 7 consecutive days. It seems that in my previous life, after the clan discovered this place, they must have first destroyed the illusion barrier, then spread a mix of true and false information to deceive the clan members. Tonight's discovery was partly due to luck, partly due to accumulated experience, but the biggest factor was probably the green bamboo wine. This wine has a truly intoxicating aroma, arguably the best in Qingmao Mountain. Perhaps in my previous life, when that Gu master was heartbroken, he drank this very wine. However, these things are no longer important. Fang Yuan has almost completely unearthed the flower wine practitioner's treasure. Although the results are somewhat acceptable, they are reasonable. Most importantly, Fang Yuan has obtained the wineworm, his original target, and also the most important thing he needed, the primeval stones. Next, I'll focus my mind on refining goo worms in the inn. As long as I have a goo worm, I can return to the academy, qualify for the student dormitory, and borrow cultivation resources from the family. Staying at this inn once or twice is fine. Staying longer would be too expensive. Fang Yuan calculated, his footsteps quickening as he hurried back to the mountain stronghold. He still had 2 remaining primeval stones, bringing his total to 15. But for a Gu master, what were those primeval stones compared to that? Chapter 17. Initial Training of the Wineworm. With my B-grade aptitude, the primordial C in my aperture can only store a maximum of 4/10 of my true essence. The speed at which the Gu worms repel true essence is much faster than the speed at which I restore my true essence myself. To refine Gu worms, I must rely on external force. In other words, I must consume primordial stones. The weaker the Gu worm's will, the less resistance it has, making it easier for me to refine it. However, all living beings have a will to survive. To refine the moonlight Gu, I need at least 5 primordial stones, and at most 8, based on his rich cultivation experience. Fang Yuan calculated the total number of primordial stones he was about to consume. Now, to refine the wine Gu, I need at least 11 primordial stones, and at most 16. Although the wine Gu is similar to the moonlight Gu, both are first-grade Gu worms, it is undoubtedly rarer, and the difficulty of refining it is also increased. In other words, although Fang Yuan currently has 17 primeval stones, after refining the wineworms alone, he will only have at most 6, and at least only 1. In the night sky, the moon shone brightly. The moonlight was like the soft hand of a fairy, gently caressing the ancient Moon Mountain village. The bamboo houses along the road were like closely packed jade pieces. The night breeze blew slowly. Under the moonlight, Fang Yuan returned to the inn. The inn door was closed. Fang Yuan knocked loudly on the door. I heard you. Who is it, knocking so late? The inn's waiter grumbled as he opened the door. Still sleepy. But when he saw Fang Yuan, his slightly dissatisfied and lazy expression instantly changed. He bowed, smiling obsequiously. It's the young master. I'm so lucky to be able to open the door for you. Fang Yuan nodded, his expression cold, and entered the inn. This expression, on the contrary, made the waiter's smile even more sinister. He proactively asked, Young master, are you hungry? Would you like me to tell the chef to prepare some food for you as a late-night snack? No need. Fang Yuan shook his head. Only instructing. Prepare some hot water for me. I want to wash my face. Yes, the waiter quickly nodded. Young master, please go back to your room first. I assure you, the hot water will be brought immediately. Fang Yuan grunted, and ascended the stairs to the second floor. The waiter watched Fang Yuan's retreating figure, his eyes gleaming under the lamplight, revealing clear admiration. This is a Gu master. If only I had the talent to cultivate. He clenched his fist and sighed deeply. These words reached Fang Yuan's ears, and he couldn't help but chuckle inwardly. Gu masters can surpass the power of ordinary mortals and attain a higher status. But the price they pay is very high. The first problem is financial resources. Gu masters need spirit stones for cultivation, for fighting, for refining Gu, and for trading. Without spirit stones, how can they cultivate? This is something that ordinary mortals like innkeepers, who are merely onlookers, cannot understand. Just like this evening, the young Gu master Jiang Ya, while angrily throwing down his wine jar at the hunters, said, I begrudge the spirit stones I used to drink this green bamboo wine. Yet you lowly mortal hunters have so much money. These words alone illustrate the predicament of a Gu master's cultivation. Gu masters possess powerful abilities and earn more than ordinary mortals. But their expenses are also much higher. Every single spirit stone must be meticulously calculated. This is especially true for low-level Gu masters. Don't be fooled by some Gu masters' outwardly bright appearance. In reality, they are very poor in life. Furthermore, as Gu masters' cultivation levels increase, their needs for resources also increase. Without support, Gu masters' cultivation is arduous. Fang Yuan reflected on his previous life. Fully understanding this, he returned to his room, and just as he lit the lamp, the inn's waiter brought up a basin of hot water. Of course, there were also towels, toiletries, and so on. Fang Yuan dismissed the waiter, closed the door, bolted it, and after washing his face, went to bed. Although his body was a little tired, he was still very excited. Finally, I have the wineworm. The wineworm is even more valuable than the moonlight Gu, in a sense. It's a type of Gu that can improve a Gu master's aptitude. Fang Yuan sat cross-legged on the bed and took out the wineworm. The worm was still snoring. Its form was slightly larger than the moonlight ancient, pure white and delicate, like a silkworm larva. Under the lamplight, its body was enveloped in a faint halo of light, like a gleaming pearl. Its two eyes, like two black sesame seeds, were embedded in its plump white head, revealing an innocent and adorable appearance. It wasn't heavy in the hand, roughly the weight of half a chicken egg. Sniffing it, a faint scent of wine emanated from it. This wasn't the fragrant scent of bamboo wine, but the unique aroma of the wineworm itself. The scent was subtle and delicate, almost imperceptible. Fang Yuan's nostrils twitched, inhaling the wine scent into his body. The wine flowed downwards, entering his aperture and then his bronze origin sea. The origin sea vibrated, quickly absorbing and harmonizing the wine scent, giving rise to an extremely pure stream of true essence. The other primordial essences were all green, shimmering with a bronze sheen. However, this strand of primordial essence, also green, was even more condensed than the original. This was the primordial essence that only a first-stage mid-level goo master could possess. Recognizing this bronze-green strand of primordial essence, Fang Yuan showed a satisfied smile. My current cultivation is only at the first stage early level. But with the wine worm condensing it, the primordial essence after extraction will be at the first stage mid-level. Its miraculous uses are beyond words. But very quickly, he withdrew his smile. However, I haven't truly mastered the wine worm yet. Only after completely refining it and making it my life-bound goo can I freely manipulate it and then refine my primordial essence with the greatest efficiency. Thinking this, he wasted no time, mobilizing a strand of bronze-green primordial essence from his primordial sea. The true essence tightly enveloped the wine worm, carrying it afloat before Fang Yuan, and began to invade its body. Sensing the imminent danger to its survival, the wine worm immediately awakened. It began to struggle violently, mobilizing its own strength to repel Fang Yuan's true essence. This wine worm has incredibly strong resistance, Fang Yuan said with a serious expression. He felt the rate of true essence consumption was more than double that of the moonlight goo. No matter what, wine worm, I've decided to refine it. His eyes showed determination as he continued to mobilize true essence, capturing the wine worm. In the hotel room, the candlelight on the table burned silently, casting a bright light in the center of the room, while the far corners remained shrouded in darkness. The candlelight shone on Fang Yuan's face. He had his eyes closed, concentrating his mind on dealing with the continuously flowing bronze-colored true essence of the wine worm. Like a mist, it emanated from Fang Yuan's entire body, then converged, tightly enveloping the wine worm. The wine worm floated in the air, less than a meter from Fang Yuan's face. Within the bronze true essence's encirclement, it struggled desperately. Time passed silently. The candle wax burned lower and lower, and the candlelight grew dimmer. Outside the window, the crescent moon slowly set, heralding the arrival of a new day. The early morning sunlight streamed through the window crack, illuminating the room, like a luminous border etched into the windowpane. Fang Yuan opened his eyes and looked at the wine worm before him. Its white body now bore a greenish hue. This was the result of Fang Yuan's efforts over half the night. However, it was clear that the volume of that little green thing was not yet 100% of the wine worm's body. Fang Yuan's expression turned serious. This wine worm possessed an incredibly tenacious will and immense resistance, truly on the verge of surpassing the limits of a first-rank goo worm. This goo worm is very likely the life-bound goo of the wine flower practitioner. The wine flower practitioner was a 5th-rank expert, and this wine worm was originally also a 5th-rank expert. However, for several years it lacked sufficient food, constantly starving, and its rank had declined. Today, it's only at the 1st-rank level, yet its will is as unyielding as a rock. Fang Yuan guessed correctly. This wine worm was the life-bound goo of the wine flower practitioner. Its original will have been almost completely destroyed by the wine flower practitioner, following him from north to south, fighting on various battlefields, and roaming the martial world. After the wine flower practitioner's death, his powerful will remained within the wine worm. Fang Yuan currently wants to refine the wine worm, which is like competing with the willpower of the wine flower practitioner. This is far more difficult than refining a natural goo worm. A person's willpower is stronger than that of a natural goo worm. A person on the brink of life and death can unleash power beyond their own imagination. And the wine flower practitioner is a powerful demonic cultivator, a lone wolf, roaming the martial world. His willpower must be even more tenacious than that of a righteous cultivator of the same level. To refine this wine worm within a month is impossible, unless there's a powerful expert who can use the aura of a 2nd or 3rd rank goo to suppress this wine worm. reducing its willpower to the lowest level. With such assistance, I can achieve great results with little effort. Thinking of this, Fang Yuan couldn't help but sigh. His parents are dead, his aunt and uncle are plotting against him, and he himself has no solid support. Where can he find external help? If he had a Class A aptitude, it would be fine, but now his aptitude is only Class C. None of his clansmen value him. So who would be willing to expend so much effort to help him? More importantly, the existence of the wineworm cannot be revealed. The ancient Moon Mountain village doesn't have this type of ancient wineworm, and Fang Yuan can't explain its origin. If it's revealed, it's highly likely to be discovered by the higher echelons, thus linking it to the wine flower practitioner. The two are too easily connected. Calculating it this way, 17 blocks are still not enough. At least 30 blocks of original stones are needed. It's really troublesome, but no matter how difficult it is, I must refine this wineworm. Fang Yuan's will was like iron. He had decided he absolutely had to refine the wineworm. The life-bound goo had too many connections, and the level of influence on the future cultivation direction of a goo master was enormous. Although the wineworm wasn't the most ideal goo in the world, it was better than the moonlight goo, and the best level Fang Yuan could achieve in his current situation. Asterisk. Rumble, rumble. At this moment, Fang Yuan's stomach rumbled in protest. Having stayed up all night and fully focused on refining the wineworm, Fang Yuan was naturally hungry. I should fill my stomach first, then think about how to gather the primeval stones. Fang Yuan patted his stomach and went downstairs. Reaching the first floor, he chose a corner to sit down and ordered some breakfast. Just as he began to eat, his younger brother, Gu Yue Fang Zheng, appeared. "Brother, why are you at the hotel? Why didn't you come back to sleep last night?" He was very blunt, his voice laced with questioning. Chapter 18. Let the past fade away like smoke. Facing his younger brother's questioning, Fang Yuan said nothing, continuing to eat breakfast as before. He understood his brother's personality. Fang Zheng was impatient. Sure enough, Fang Zheng saw that his older brother didn't even glance at him, treating him as if he were invisible. After a moment, his voice filled with dissatisfaction. He exclaimed, "Brother, what did you do to Shen Kui? Since yesterday, after she came out of your room, she's been crying loudly. I tried to comfort her, but she cried even more." Fang Yuan glanced at his younger brother, his expression unchanged. Fang Zheng frowned, staring at his older brother, waiting for his answer. The atmosphere grew increasingly tense. But Fang Yuan merely looked at him, then lowered his head and continued eating. Fang Zheng became furious. Fang Yuan's attitude was a blatant disregard for him. Overwhelmed with shame, he slammed his hand on the table and roared, "Gu Yue Fang Yuan, how could you do this? She's just a little maid, serving you for so many years, gently caring for you. I've seen it all. Yes, I know you're disappointed, and I understand your frustration. You only have a C-grade talent, but you can't take your anger out on others because of your circumstances. This is unfair to her." Before he could finish, Fang Yuan stood up abruptly and, with lightning speed, slapped Fang Zheng. Fang Zheng clutched his right cheek, staggering back 2 steps, his face filled with astonishment. "You bastard, what kind of tone are you using to talk to your brother? Shen Kui is just a little maid. Have you forgotten that I'm your brother because of a girl like that?" Fang Yuan reprimanded him in a low voice. Fang Zheng finally reacted, the pain on his face spreading like a wave to his central nervous system. His eyes widened, he gasped for breath, and said in disbelief, "Brother, you hit me. You've never hit me in my life." "Yes, I was tested and found to have A-grade aptitude. You're only C-grade, but you can't blame me. This is all fate." Slap. Before Fang Zheng could finish speaking, Fang Yuan delivered another slap. Fang Zheng covered his cheeks with both hands. Bewildered. "Naive fool, what do you remember? From childhood to adulthood, how did I take care of you? when your parents had just passed away. We lived in hardship. After the new year, your aunt and uncle only gave us one new set of clothes. Did I wear them myself? Who did I give them to? When you were little, you liked to eat fruit porridge. And every day I instructed the kitchen to make an extra bowl for you. When you were bullied by outsiders, who was it that brought you back? There are all sorts of other things. But I won't say much more. So, now, because of a maidservant, you're talking to me like this, questioning me. Fang Zheng's face turned red. His lips trembled, both embarrassed and angry, yet he couldn't utter a single word of rebuttal. Because everything Fang Yuan said was true. Fine, Fang Yuan sneered repeatedly. If you even abandoned your own parents and then accepted someone else again. What am I, your older brother? Worth? Brother, how can you say that? You know I've longed for the warmth of a family since I was little. Fang Zheng hastily explained. Fang Yuan waved his hand, stopping him from continuing. From today onwards, you are no longer my younger brother, and I am no longer your older brother. Brother, Fang Zheng exclaimed in shock, wanting to speak. At this moment, Fang Yuan spoke again. Aren't you fond of Shen Kui? Don't worry, I won't do anything to her. She's still a virgin, a pure and innocent maiden. Give me 6 spirit stones, and I'll transfer her to you. From now on, she will be your personal maid. Brother, how could you? Suddenly having his thoughts exposed, Fang Zheng panicked, somewhat caught off guard. But at the same time, he was certain that his greatest fear hadn't come true. Not long ago, Shen Kui had personally served him during his bath. Although nothing substantial happened, Fang Zheng would never forget that tender night. Every time he thought of Shen Kui, remembering her skillful hands and soft, rosy lips, a wave of emotion surged through him. The feelings of youth had long since accumulated in his heart and begun to sprout. Therefore, when he learned of Shen Kui's unusual behavior the previous evening, he was furious. He immediately abandoned his plan to refine the moonlight goo and instead searched the entire mountain stronghold for Fang Yuan, demanding an explanation. Seeing Fang Zheng's refusal, Fang Yuan frowned. A man-woman relationship is perfectly normal. Be straightforward and honest. What's the point of being evasive? Of course, if you don't want to exchange, forget it. Fang Zheng immediately became agitated. Exchange? Of course I'll exchange, but I don't have 6 raw stones left. He pulled out his money pouch, his face flushing. Fang Yuan took the bag and saw 6 pieces inside, but one of them was more than half the size of a complete raw stone. He immediately knew that Fang Zheng had absorbed the true essence from the raw stones to quickly refine the moonlight goo. The more natural true essence extracted, the smaller the raw stone became, and the lighter its weight. Although there were only 5.5 pieces, Fang Yuan knew that this was all the raw stones Fang Zheng had. He himself hadn't accumulated any. These 6 raw stones were given to him by his aunt and uncle before. I've taken the raw stones. You can leave. Fang Yuan's expression was cold as he tucked the bag into his chest. Brother, Fang Zheng wanted to speak again. Fang Yuan's eyebrows slightly raised, and he calmly said, while I haven't changed my mind yet, you'd better disappear from my sight. Fang Zheng's heart tightened, and he gritted his teeth before finally turning around and leaving. Stepping out of the hotel door, he unconsciously clutched his chest, feeling a wave of emptiness inside. His intuition told him that he seemed to have lost something very important at this moment. But his heart quickly warmed up. He thought of Shen Kui, and that night of haunting dreams. I can finally have you legitimately. Kui. He didn't turn around, walking out of Fang Yuan's sight. Fang Yuan's expression remained unchanged. He stood for a long time before slowly sitting down. The bright sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating his cold face, giving off a chilling feeling. Business was somewhat slow, but the increasing number of passers-by on the street, the clamor and noise, only accentuated the emptiness of the place. The breakfast had gone cold, and the waiter courteously came to ask if he needed it reheated. Fang Yuan acted as if he were deaf, his eyes shifting like smoke, as if lost in thought. The waiter waited for a while, but seeing Fang Yuan lost in thought and not responding, he reluctantly touched his nose and left. After a moment, Fang Yuan's gaze returned. The memories in his heart, like mist, gradually dissipated. He returned to the real world, the sunlight shining on more than half of the table. The food was no longer hot, and the noisy sounds of people walking on the street reached his ears. Through his clothes, he reached out and touched the 5.5 blocks of spirit stones in his chest. A bitter, mocking smile appearing at the corner of his mouth. But the smile vanished as soon as it appeared. Waiter, reheat the rice and soup. Fang Yuan glanced at the food once, speaking indifferently. At this moment, his eyes were incredibly cold. What, brother, you said that, in the room? He frowned, his voice cold. His aunt sat beside him, looking at the bright red handprint on one side of Fang Zheng's cheek. Saying nothing. Yes, when I met my brother. He was having breakfast at the hotel. That's exactly how it all happened, Fang Zheng respectfully replied. His eyebrows furrowed even deeper, forming a Kawa Xuan character. After a few breaths, his father sighed deeply and said in a serious tone, Fang Zheng, my son, you must remember, the maid Shen Kui is not Fang Yuan's personal property, but something we allocated to him. How can you sell her? Moreover, if you wanted her, you should have told us earlier, and we would have given her to you. Ah, Fang Zheng's eyes widened in disbelief. He waved his hand, you go down first. Your raw stones have already been given to Fang Yuan, so I'll give you 6. Remember, this time you need to use them well for refining goo. If you win first place this time, we'll all be proud of you. Father, I'm ashamed. Fang Zheng was immediately moved to tears. He sighed, go down, quickly return to your room to refine goo. You've wasted a lot of time. Fang Zheng retreated, and only then did he reveal a fierce and furious expression. Bang! He slammed his hand down on the table, and shouted in a low voice, HMPH. This brat, he's selling off our people again. How cunning and deceitful. His wife, standing beside him, quickly tried to calm him down. Master, please calm down, it's only 6 raw stones. You woman, what do you understand? Fang Yuan only has a B-grade aptitude to refine the moonlight goo. He needs spirit stones. With his immature first-time goo refining technique, 6 spirit stones certainly wouldn't be enough. But now he has 12, which is more than enough. He gritted his teeth in anger. He continued, for goo masters, as long as they have sufficient resources and don't get stuck in bottlenecks, they will progress very quickly. In 2 or 3 years, the family can cultivate a group of second-rank goo masters. The lower Fang Yuan's cultivation level, the smaller his chances of reclaiming the family fortune a year later. He is still young and has just started cultivating. If we hinder him, he will fall behind his peers at the beginning. The Academy's resources are all rewards for outstanding students. With his aptitude, once he falls behind, he won't be able to obtain those resources. And without resources to support his cultivation, he will fall even further behind. If this vicious cycle continues, let's see if he still has the strength to inherit the family fortune after a year. His aunt was puzzled. Even if we don't stop him, after a year he will at most only be a mid-stage first rank. Master, you are a second-rank cultivator. Why are you afraid of him? He stomped his foot in anger. Women. Truly, long hair but short knowledge. With my dignified status as an elder, should I really get into a fight with a junior? He wants to rightfully reclaim his inheritance. And of course, I can't directly stop him. I can only resort to clan rules. The clan regulations clearly state in writing, anyone 16 years old who wants to get married and start a family must at least have a cultivation level of the first stage of the mid-level. Otherwise, It clearly shows that Fang Yuan has no right to waste the clan's resources. Do you understand what I'm saying? His aunt suddenly understood. He narrowed his eyes, a sinister glint in them. He shook his head slightly, sighing, "This Fang Yuan is too cunning, too devious. He even saw through my seduction. What kind of mind is that? So young, yet so deeply calculating and scheming. It's terrifying. I originally wanted to plot against him, but he just moved out. I even tried to use Shen Kui to spy on and harass him. But he chased me away and even profited 6 yuan stones from the transaction." Quote, if only he could be as naive as Fang Zheng. All right, treat Fang Zheng well in the future. His talent is top tier. Moreover, I can see that he's not convinced by Fang Yuan. He's very unwilling to accept defeat. This is a good thing. You must guide him. I have a feeling he will be the best weapon against Fang Yuan in the future. In the blink of an eye, 2 days had passed. The hotel room remained unlit. The moonlight shone in, casting a beautiful glow everywhere. On the bed, Fang Yuan sat cross-legged with his eyes closed, mobilizing his bronze true essence, concentrating his mind on refining the wineworm. The wineworm's small body was stained a bronze-green color, yet its will remained as tenacious as ever, constantly struggling within the enveloping true essence mist. Fang Yuan's refining process was very difficult. Every step was arduous. I spent about 2 days and 2 nights, resting only 2 hours each day, consuming 12 primeval stones, and only managed to refine 1/15 of the progress. Judging by the time, it will only be a few days before someone else successfully refines a gu. Fang Yuan clearly understood the situation. However, his inherent talent was inferior, and now, refining the wineworm, its will to survive was incredibly tenacious, far exceeding that of ordinary moonlight gu. Therefore, his current disadvantage was quite normal. Falling behind temporarily is nothing. As long as I have the wineworm. Fang Yuan's heart was as clear as a mirror, calm and without a trace of impatience. But at this moment, the wineworm suddenly coiled up, forming a ball. Not good, the gu worm is retaliating. Fang Yuan suddenly opened his eyes, a hint of surprise flashing in them. Before him, the wineworm coiled into a round, agile dumpling, powerfully emitting a dazzling white aura. It wanted to devour him completely. Immediately, Fang Yuan felt a powerful will emanating from the wineworm, sweeping through his true essence and descending into his aperture origin sea. A gu worm retaliating is extremely rare. Only gu worms with incredibly strong willpower can fight with all their might, risking their lives if they fail. If it were any other young man facing this situation, he would undoubtedly panic. However, although startled, Fang Yuan wasn't panicked. On the contrary, he felt a little pleased. It's good to risk everything. As long as I can withstand this counterattack, I can greatly weaken the wineworm's will. However, next, I will concentrate all my mental energy and fully resist the impact of this ancient will, without any external disturbances. Otherwise, it will be disastrous. I just hope no one disturbs me during this time. After considering this, he was about to urge the true essence in his aperture to receive the will, entangle it, and engage in a 300-round battle with it. But at this moment, a strange phenomenon occurred. An ancient worm appeared in the middle of his aperture, above the sea surface. Boom! This ancient worm unleashed an extremely powerful aura. This aura was like a galaxy pouring down, a raging storm, or like a terrifying beast whose majesty had been insulted, opening its blood-red eyes to check who dared to trespass on its territory. Is this the spring and autumn cicada? Upon seeing this gu worm, Fang Yuan was completely terrified. Chapter 19: The 6 Transformations of the Spring and Autumn Cicada's Life Force. During the refining process, he finally encountered a gu worm's counterattack. At this moment, the wine worm, inheriting the powerful will of the wine flower practitioner, was invading his aperture, ferociously biting back at Fang Yuan. This willpower viciously struck the bronze primordial sea at the bottom of his aperture. The bronze primordial sea also surged, raising a series of high waves. Under Fang Yuan's will, his true essence surged upwards, gathering to form a raging, sky-high wave, fiercely meeting the wineworm's will. The two sides seemed about to collide violently in the middle of his aperture. But at this moment, in the empty area above the aperture, right between the two streams of power, a faint goo worm appeared. It was a cicada. The cicada's shape wasn't large. If the moonlight goo was a piece of blue glass, curved like the moon, then this cicada resembled an exquisite work of art crafted by a master artisan using wood and palm leaves. Its head and belly were both yellowish-brown, their outer surfaces bearing the ring-like growth rings of trees, a testament to the passage of time. Two large, translucent wings on its back resembled two closed leaves. Each wing had veins, identical on both sides. These veins resembled a typical leaf vein pattern, with a central vein branching out into a network of veins on either side. The spring and autumn cicada. It was disturbed. Like a monster, normally hidden and asleep in its cave, it was suddenly awakened and discovered its territory had been invaded. Who dares to flaunt their power in my territory? Its dignity violated. The spring and autumn cicada was enraged, emitting a surge of energy. This energy was faint yet incredibly powerful. It was like a vast galaxy, rushing down, each wave surging as if to sweep away thousands of miles of green mountains, to engulf the boundless desert. Compared to this aura, the will of the wineworm was like an ant encountering an elephant. The aura swept everything around, like the most terrifying invisible tsunami. The wineworm's will, upon encountering this tsunami, had no ability to resist and was instantly swallowed up. Fang Yuan felt a tightness in his chest. The bronze true essence he had desperately urged to surge upwards collided with this aura. Like a tidal wave crashing against a mountain, the condensed true essence suddenly collapsed, scattering and falling like rain. Returning to the Sea of True Essence, the Sea of True Essence surged with wave after wave, becoming even more turbulent as if under a torrential downpour but after a few breaths. The spring and autumn cicada aura spread down, pressing down on the surface of the sea. Boom! Fang Yuan felt as if he had heard a resounding roar, and in an instant, the turbulent Sea of Origin suddenly became calm. The aura of the spring and autumn cicada pressed down on the entire Sea of Origin like an invisible mountain. The surface of the sea not a single wave rising, as smooth as a mirror. This was like a crumpled piece of paper suddenly smoothed flat by the boundless hand of a giant. This was truly unparalleled power. Fang Yuan felt as if an invisible mountain was weighing him down. Like Sun Wukong trapped at the foot of the Five Elements mountain, he couldn't mobilize any of his true essence. However, although he was surprised, he wasn't frightened. Instead, his heart was filled with joy. I never expected the spring and autumn cicada to come back to life with me. It turns out it's not a one-time consumption goo, but one that can be used repeatedly. The spring-autumn cicada's rank reached the 6th transformation, making it the first and last 6th transformation goo worm Fang Yuan had in his previous life. To refine it, Fang Yuan used every means and resource, expending immense effort and preparing for 30 years before finally succeeding. However, shortly after his success, before he could even hold the spring-autumn cicada in his hands, the righteous heroes sensed Fang Yuan's threat and attacked him, killing him. After his rebirth, Fang Yuan didn't find the spring-autumn cicada, assuming it had perished, but in reality, it had taken refuge inside Fang Yuan's body, falling into a deep sleep. The sudden reversal of time by 500 years had depleted its vital energy, leaving it severely weakened, so weakened that even its master, Fang Yuan, couldn't sense it. Now, although the spring-autumn cicada has reappeared, its condition remains unstable. Since its rebirth, It has remained dormant in a deep sleep. At this moment, it appeared only because it sensed danger, perhaps awakened by the will of the wineworm. It was extremely weak, utterly weakened. In Fang Yuan's memory, the spring and autumn cicada was originally full of vitality, its body like a precious card, radiating a warm, glossy sheen. Its wings were a vibrant green, like two newly sprouted leaves. But now, a desolate, withered feeling emanated from its body. Its body no longer shone but appeared rough and gloomy, like a dry branch. Its wings were no longer vibrant green but dry and yellow, like withered autumn leaves. Moreover, the tips of its wings were slightly curled, no longer intact, like the edges of fallen leaves. Fang Yuan felt both heartbroken and fortunate about this. Heartbreakingly, the spring-autumn cicada was severely injured, its demise hanging by a thread, like stepping on the edge of a high cliff. Fortunately, the spring-autumn cicada was weakened to this extent, otherwise, I would be in serious trouble. It's important to know that goo masters and goo insects must support each other, ideally at the same cultivation level. A first-rank goo master should use a first-rank goo insect. This is the most suitable arrangement. If the goo insect's rank is lower than the goo master's, the goo master using it is like a strong man carrying a small wooden stick, powerful but useless. If the goo insect's rank is higher than the goo master's, the goo master using it is like a child carrying a large hammer, willing but lacking the strength. The spring-autumn cicada is a 6th-rank goo insect, while Fang Yuan is just a small, insignificant first-rank goo master. To use an analogy, the spring-autumn cicada is the mountain, and Fang Yuan is the squirrel. If you ask the squirrel to carry the mountain to fight the enemy, the squirrel will first be crushed by the mountain. If the spring-autumn cicada were in its best state, even a small, insignificant goo master like Fang Yuan's spatial aperture wouldn't be able to contain it, being torn apart and killed by its immense aura. Fortunately, it was extremely weakened, allowing it to be contained within Fang Yuan's current spatial aperture. I abandoned the moonlight goo and went to great lengths to find the wineworm. All just to refine my life-bound goo. But actually, I already possessed a life-bound goo long ago. The spring-autumn cicada is my life-bound goo. Feeling the close connection between himself and the spring-autumn cicada, Fang Yuan was deeply moved. A life-bound goo is the first goo worm a goo master refines. It's incredibly important and greatly influences their future development. Choosing a good life-bound goo makes the goo master's development smoother. Conversely, a low-quality life-bound goo will hinder the goo master's cultivation, causing them to be overtaken and surpassed by their peers. Most importantly, it will affect their survival in battle. Fang Yuan understood this very well. So even though the moonlight goo was the guardian goo of the ancient Moon Mountain village, he was still not satisfied and went to great lengths to find the wine goo. In his memory, the wine goo was already the top choice for a first-rank goo master. The moonlight goo could only be considered above average. But the reason life is always fascinating is that people never know what awaits them in the next moment. In his previous life, Fang Yuan refined the spring-autumn cicada. After being reborn, the spring-autumn cicada fell into a deep sleep, but this refining relationship still existed. At the same time, Fang Yuan discovered that, seemingly due to the purification of the river of time, the connection between him and the spring-autumn cicada had become even more mysterious and closer than in his previous life. However, the spring-autumn cicada was very weak, which is why Fang Yuan couldn't sense it. So, to be precise, the spring-autumn cicada was the first goo worm he refined. However, the spring-autumn cicada wasn't refined by Fang Yuan in this life, but was the result of 500 years of effort in his previous life. The spring-autumn cicada is Fang Yuan's life-bound goo. A first-rank goo master with a 6th-rank life-bound goo. No one would believe this. It shattered the limits of people's understanding. But it truly happened. The truth is undeniable. The wineworm was the best choice for a life-bound goo. But compared to the spring-autumn cicada, it's just mud. My life-bound goo in this life is the spring-autumn cicada. Ha ha ha. Chapter 20. The Elders' Academy is speechless. The overwhelming joy wasn't enough to make Fang Yuan dizzy. He quickly regained his composure and began to consider the impact the spring-autumn cicada had on him. The spring-autumn cicada's ability is resurrection. But right now, it's extremely weak. It'll die at the slightest touch. However, since it's a 6th-rank goo worm, I can completely utilize its aura. This won't harm it in any way. Ha ha. Thinking this, Fang Yuan withdrew his mental energy and opened his eyes. He saw the wineworm floating before him, enveloped in a smoky, bronze-like true essence, trembling. Just now, it had risked everything for survival, and its willpower had been easily shattered by the spring-autumn cicada's aura. It was severely injured as a result. Its willpower less than 1% of what it was before. Spring-autumn cicada. Fang Yuan's thoughts stirred, and he released a trace of the spring-autumn cicada's aura. The oppressive aura pressed down on the wineworm, causing it to instantly freeze. Unable to move, as if dead, its remaining will, sensing the aura of the spring and autumn cicada, was like a mouse encountering a cat, overwhelmed and forced to cower, not daring to budge. Fang Yuan laughed heartily, seizing the opportunity to urge his true essence. Initially, when his bronze true essence was refining the wineworm, it could only expand slowly due to its stubborn resistance. But now, Fang Yuan's bronze true essence advanced rapidly, smoothly and effortlessly, from beginning to end. It encountered no obstacles. The green color on the wineworm's surface quickly spread, and in a few blinks of an eye, it had transformed the pearl-white wineworm into a green worm. The tide had turned against it. Finally, Fang Yuan's will easily shattered the wineworm's remaining will, instantly dissolving it into dust. Thus, he had refined the wineworm. Compared to the initial arduous journey across mountains and valleys, today's refinement process was as simple as drinking water. A mysterious and intimate connection bound the wineworm and Fang Yuan together. After refinement, the wineworm was like a part of Fang Yuan's body. Fang Yuan told it to bend, and it did, told it to curl up, and it curled into a dumpling shape, feeling as if he could move his fingers. Fang Yuan withdrew his true essence, and the wineworm reverted to its round, white form. Then, it jumped up and entered Fang Yuan's aperture. Once inside, it moved far away from the spring and autumn cicada and burrowed into the bronze primordial sea. On the surface of the sea, it stretched freely, occasionally rotating its plump hips, as comfortable as soaking in hot water. Since I have the spring-autumn cicada, my plan should be revised. Fang Yuan withdrew his consciousness from the aperture and took out the moonlight goo. He did as before, releasing a little of the spring-autumn cicada's aura to suppress the moonlight goo. Sensing the spring-autumn cicada's aura, the moonlight goose will immediately surrendered, cowering in fear in a corner of his body. Fang Yuan's true essence surged out, instantly dyeing the moonlight goo a jade-like blue. Finally, with just a slight thought, the moonlight goose was easily devoured. Then, Fang Yuan withdrew his true essence, and the moonlight goo reverted to its previous transparent blue crystal form. He also retrieved the moonlight goo. However, instead of returning to the aperture, the moonlight goo fell onto Fang Yuan's forehead, forming a faint blue crescent-shaped mark. From the beginning to the end of refining the moonlight goo, the entire process took less than 5 minutes. This speed was incredibly fast compared to the initial arduous refinement process, creating a stark contrast. Moreover, not only was it fast, but the consumption of true essence was also minimal. In the past few days, Fang Yuan had consumed 6 blocks of primeval stones refining the wineworm. But tonight, he didn't consume any primeval stones at all, merely using the bronze true essence within his aperture. Ha ha, with the spring-autumn cicada in hand. It's truly like divine assistance. From now on, I only need to use its aura to suppress it, and any first-rank goo worm will be easily captured. Even if I only have a C-grade aptitude, I won't need to rely on primeval stones. The difference between before and now is like heaven and earth. Fang Yuan was overjoyed. At this moment, it was like pushing aside the clouds to see the clear sky. Although the spring-autumn cicada was greatly weakened, it was still a dignified 6th-rank goo worm. Even a fallen tiger still possesses its might, and a broken boat still has 3 rows of nails. Just its aura alone would be a tremendous driving force in Fang Yuan's future cultivation. At this moment, the moon shone brightly outside the window, its light piercing through the bars and illuminating Fang Yuan's face. I originally thought I wouldn't win first place, but unexpectedly the situation has turned around like this. Time waits for no one. I must go to the academy now and receive the top prize. Fang Yuan's eyes gleamed. He moved his thoughts, and the spring-autumn cicada in his aperture immediately disappeared, once again falling into a deep sleep. Then, he summoned the wineworm and hid it at the head of his bed. This was also to prevent unnecessary inspections from the academy. After an hour, in the family academy, the academy elder had long since gone to sleep. But while he was sleeping, he vaguely heard someone knocking on the door. Awakened by the knocking on the door, the old man opened his eyes, slightly displeased. "Who's outside at midnight?" A respectful voice immediately replied from outside, reporting to the esteemed elder. "It's a student from this year's academy. He has successfully refined the moonlight goo. You previously instructed your subordinates that as soon as the top student appears, no matter the time, we must immediately report to you." That's right. The elder of the academy frowned, got out of bed, and while getting dressed, said, "Which student is the top student this year? Is it Gu Yue Fang Zheng?" The subordinate outside replied, "It seems so. I heard the news and hurried to inform you." "Sir, it seems to be from the Fang family branch." "Ah, judging by the time, it should be him." The academy elder chuckled softly, muttering, "Besides a genius of the A class, who else could it be? Those B-class students, even with the use of spirit stones, are still a notch below. Otherwise, why would cultivation aptitude be so important?" As he spoke, he pushed open the door and went out. Outside, his subordinate respectfully stepped back 2 steps, bowed, and chimed in, "The master is right." Inside the hall, more than 10 candles burned simultaneously, illuminating the room. At this moment, the person who had just received Fang Yuan had clarified the situation. Under the bright light, this person's face was full of surprise. "Wait a minute. What did you just say? Your name is Gu Yue Fang Yuan, not Gu Yue Fang Zheng?" Fang Yuan nodded. Just then, the academy elder entered from outside the door. Fang Yuan and the person who had just received him turned to bow. The academy elder's face lit up with a smile upon seeing Fang Yuan. The old man walked up to Fang Yuan, patting him on the shoulder in a friendly manner. "Well done. Gu Yue Fang Zheng, you didn't disappoint me. You truly are a genius with top-tier talent. Those of your age with second or third-tier talent, no matter how hard they try, can't compare to you. Ha ha ha." Fang Yuan and Fang Zheng were twin brothers, extremely similar in appearance, so the academy elder mistook them for each other. Fang Yuan remained composed, taking a step back to free his shoulder from the elder's hand. He looked at the elder, clasped his hands behind his back, and smiled faintly. "Elder, you've mistaken me for someone else. I am Gu Yue Fang Yuan, and Gu Yue Fang Zheng is my younger brother." "What?" The academy elder's mouth slightly agape, his face filled with surprise. He looked at Fang Yuan suspiciously, frowning. After a few breaths, he finally spoke. "You are Gu Yue Fang Yuan?" "That's me," Fang Yuan replied. "You've refined the moonlight goo?" The academy elder was extremely surprised, his eyes fixed on the crescent moon mark on Fang Yuan's forehead, his gaze shining brightly as he asked, even though he already knew the answer. That's right, Fang Yuan replied. So, you're the top student this year. The academy elder's question seemed a little foolish. But it couldn't be blamed on him. This situation was truly unexpected. He had managed the academy for over 10 years. Possessing vast experience, he had encountered situations where students with B-grade aptitude won first place before. But certainly not this early. Moreover, this time there were also students with A-grade and B-grade aptitude. Unless someone else came before me, Fang Yuan pondered, then touched his nose before continuing. Then it seems so. The Academy Elder. You've just finished watching episode 1 of the Reverend Insanity series on the Midnight Story Bureau YouTube channel. Please leave any feedback in the comments section. And don't forget to like and subscribe to give me motivation to make more videos.